questionpro.com, finished 2022 at a 30 million run rate, up from 20 million back in 2019. He's bought 5 companies and done this all organically in Bootstrap since launching in 2005. It's a tool that helps you learn from your employees, learn from your customers, all through smart surveys and engagement tools. Check it out at questionpro.com. Hey folks, my guest today is Vivek Bhaskaran. He is the CEO and founder of a company called Question Pro. Bootstrapped. He's done a lot of M&A. Last time we spoke, he broke 19 million bucks in revenue, serving over 4,800 customers. He's now in warm and sunny San Francisco while I freeze down here in Austin. Vivek, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yes, sir. Let's go for it. Second time. I love it.
Second time. Your recording when you presented on stage at one of our last events where you talked about how you used WhatsApp to text basically another founder and ended up closing a deal with your one-page sort of LOI was a massive hit. Are you still today, even in a recession, looking at M&A opportunities or no?
I'm doubling down. In fact, I have 3 deals in the pipeline right now. I think, from an M&A perspective, the kind of deals we do, there are still deals to be made, and we're active.
So guys, Question Pro helps you run surveys to do research, understand your customer's experience, and also get feedback from your employees to manage employee engagement. Vivek, with that context, how are you thinking about M&A? Do you go buy in adjacent product categories? Do you double down on the current niches you're in? How are you thinking about it?
So we double down on the current niches we're in. So like you said, like you correctly, accurately pointed out, there are 3 different buyers. I look at from the enterprise perspective, there are 3 buyers. Number 1 is consumer insights and market research. Somebody in a company doing research. They typically fall under marketing. Second buyer is customer experience. So people are trying to figure out NPS, somebody's in charge of figuring out what's going on with the existing customers. How can we prevent churn? How can we upsell them? And the third component is HR, obviously, employee surveys, really. So any product or services that sells to each of these buyers, we are interested in. We are trying to kind of build it out. So my model has been, look at a buyer, put the buyer in the center of our kind of sphere, and say everything that he spends on or he or she spends on, we want to have those tools and services around that. So that's the kind of general pattern that I followed. So, for example, in fact, Valerie from Sweet CX, she was on your show a couple of years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, really. So she built a journey mapping platform for the CX buyer, if you think about it. So we do the surveys for the CX buyer. She built the journey mapping platform for the CX buyer. So we kind of combined forces and we acquired them actually last year. So we acquired.
Bro, where's my 1% fee? Come on, man.
The 1% is the hourly, the time that actually, you know what? The poker money. Since you kill me on poker every time I spend $1,000 with you on poker. So the poker money is your 1%. There you
I
go.
love that. Well, congrats on getting that deal done. How's it going? A lot of people say you buy a company and it's so hard to actually merge 2 companies. How many companies have you bought since you founded the company in 2005? And how is the CX integration going with Valerie?
Yeah. So when people say it's hard, it is hard. It's not an easy thing. There's cultural issues, the tech issues are, there are cultural issues, tech issues, and then obviously business. The business issues are the easiest one, right? You know what? Look, we're going to cross sell, blah, blah, blah. So pretty straightforward. Cultural is the hardest one. Tech is kind of in the middle, realistically, right? So, and from with Valerie, and obviously Valerie and I hit it off, but there are a lot of, it's not just Valerie. She's got a bunch of people. They don't, usually you have at least 20% attrition, I would argue. Anytime you do a deal, 20% of the people in the selling company will just leave no matter what you do, really, because they're like, it's a good kind of break point, if you will. The way I look at it, it's a break point, right? So look, if you're working for a company that got sold, you'll be like, let's take a break. Okay, let's see what's going on. And then once you start looking, you're going to find something. Quite frankly, you're going to leave. So I think we are so in my kind of experience, the first time it was kind of a shock. Like, look, we lost a bunch of people, but the next time, and the third time, they're like, look, I'm expecting 20 to 30% attrition.
Oh, what's going on there, YouTube? Good to see you guys. Now imagine this. You love watching these interviews with SaaS founders, but imagine if we took all of the valuation data out from over 2,807 interviews I've done manually. Saves you a lot of time. Well, we've done this. We've built it into the beautiful interface inside of FounderPath. Check this out. I'll show you how you can access this in a second, but you log in, you connect your Stripe account, you see your valuation real time, you can see what it changed over the past 88 days, and even set goals for valuation this year. Now, the secret to valuation is there's many different ways to value a SaaS business. So the reason you're going to see 3 or 4 different valuations inside of your Founder Path dashboard, this is all free by the way, is because depending on who's doing the buying of your SaaS company, you're going to get a different valuation. A VC is going to pay a different valuation. Private equity firm is different. If you're going to do a minority sale, that's different. And if you sell the whole business, that's a different valuation. You can see all those when I hover over here. Right, so the teal is what a VC would pay, yellow is what private equity, and red is if you sold the whole thing outright. Now, what's cool about this is not built off random data. Again, you guys hear these interviews on YouTube. All these data are built from real-time valuation data points founders share with us on the show. So traction, 1.2 million, seed round, 3.7 raise, they sold 22% of their business. Go in here and filter by the event. Maybe you only want to see companies that have sold the whole business. Well, here are a bunch that have been acquired, the valuation and the multiple. Maybe you're going out right now and you're raising your seed round. Well, go in here and look at all this recent seed deals that went down, what they raised, what valuation they raised at, and what percent that they sold. There's never been a larger data set of SaaS valuations than what you can get now inside of Founder Path, and we're thrilled to bring it to you. All right, we're going to go back to the YouTube video here in a second, but if you want to check this tool out, if you want to jump in and sign up, you can check it out for free to get your valuation at this link, founderpath.com/products/valuations. Or if you go to founderpath.com and hover over products, click on get your valuation here and go ahead and sign up to give it a whirl. Again, all that valuation data live right inside the platform. I hope to see you there. All right, let's jump back into the interview.
By definition.
And how many have you done? So how many acquisitions have you done since
we've done like 6 or 5 or 7. Yeah, between 5 and 7. Honestly, the first ones were pretty small. They were only asset deals. And later on, as we got better at it, now we kind of we still do asset deals, but we kind of are looking for more asset plus, asset as in tech plus customers plus, the standard operation. We want customers, we want people from from an HR perspective, and obviously some tech from a software perspective. And the other thing that I want to kind of my lesson learned, I would argue, is from a tech integration perspective. The first time I did it, I did not rewrite the platform. We rewrite their code base, and that's in fact in long term a huge mistake, right? So because now you have multiple code bases, and my team doesn't want to work on that, and there's all this cultural issues start coming into play. So what I've started to do now is we model the acquisition such that we are going to rewrite the code base. End of story, right? So up front, we say look, we're going to buy this awesome piece of tech, but we're going to rewrite it because we have a way, and we have a team, and we want to manage it. And that is, well, that seems a little expensive, but that's what you want to do in the long run, because otherwise you'll have a hodgepodge of these guys use Ruby, those guys use Java, these guys use Python, and now you have it's a shit show at that point. So if you're not ready to rewrite the tech, I would say then you are in for a lot of pain in terms of if you're just gonna buying to unload the company, then I obviously don't care. But if you're gonna stick around with it for 3 to 5 years, then then you can even model the cost of the rewrite into the acquisition price realistically, right? Post deal, it's going to take us a year and a half to rewrite your tech, and here's how it is going to cost. And rewriting tech is actually not that complicated once you know what to build. The key thing that Valerie did was all right, cool, we know exactly what the product market fit is. Everything's working. People are paying for it. Oh, it's written in PHP and something else. Okay, cool. We need to write it in Node and React and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's a fairly easy task, or easy. What revenue? Task. Nothing is easy.
What revenue multiple did you pay for Suite CX?
Suite CX, we were 2x, I think. No, not a ton, but not. So it's not super low ball either, and not 5x, 10x either. So I think it ended up being 2x with some kickers. If it could go up all the way to 3x if certain kind of obviously benchmarks are met.
How do you structure the 2x? Obviously there's the deal price, which is 2x, and there's the deal structure. Is it all cash up front, options, earnouts, kickers? How do you think about that?
Yeah, all of the above, really, right? So we have to be slightly more creative. So we don't have, we want to conserve cash, frankly, everybody realistically. Yeah. So from a From a buyer's perspective, we want to de-risk ourselves, conserve as much cash as possible while still getting the deal past the finish line. Simply put,
Yep.
right? That's the way I look at it. And in my case, kind of what I kind of get down to is like what's everybody's got a minimum cash requirement, frankly, right? I mean, every founder's got some sort of in their head. I think it's in the head, frankly, most of the time. It's like, okay, look, this is the cash I need. Um, and that's what I really kind of hone into and say, like, okay, look, can I be comfortable with dropping this much cash up front,
Yep.
realistically? So that's kind of ultimately, Nathan, that's kind of what it boils down to. Everything else is kind of like you can hedge against almost everything, both sides. But if your minimum cash, if you said like, look, if in your head, like, I gotta exit this business with at least 10 million cash, then you got to find somebody who's comfortable dropping a $10 million check cash up front. Now the deal price could be 30 million or 20 million or 40 million, but if your upfront price tag is what it is, that's what matters. That's what I zone into. At least the kind of the deals that I do, that I zone into, is they're like, okay, how much do you need to kind of like, where you do not walk away from it? So if we can get to that number, then we can negotiate on the rest of the components, really, right?
Mhm.
And if I can pay upfront, and then the rest, do I pay over time, over 2 years, over 3 years, over 1 year, and do I pay cash or stock, or warrants, or whatever it is? So all those things can be structured. But to me, like, the most important negotiating position is the upfront cash element,
Mhm.
because that makes or breaks a deal. Simply put, right? Like, if you really, and it's a subjective argument, frankly, for the most part, subjective argument. Like, look, you may want, it is what it is, what you want on a personal level, realistically.
So for Suite CX on day one, what was your current cash exposure, i.e., your sunk cost if everything
One
fails?
X, 1X.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Now, when she came on my show back in March of 2022, she says she had about 850K of ARR with 30 paying customers. So your total
yeah,
cash exposure on day one was effectively something like 800K.
yeah. A little less than 700 and change, I think. Right, 700 and
Okay.
change was my exposure
And
on
how'd
that
you get
one.
her? I mean, a lot of people that want to be like you and buy other companies are going to go, how did Vivek get Valerie comfortable paying, a 1x cash up front for this? I mean, there's kickers over time, but why was she okay with that number? How'd you get her there?
Well, I think two things. One, I flew in and met with her on day one, straight up. I wanted the deal, and I think this goes down to basic kind of sales, really. Like you want a deal, you just go and chase it down. Even though obviously we were the acquiring company, it's not beyond me to just pick up, go catch a flight to Charlotte, North Carolina, and sit down with her and spend a day with her, saying, "Hey, look, I really want to do this deal. uh, I may not be able to pay you kind of, what you exactly want. Obviously she wants more than 1x cash upfront, realistically, right? So I may not be able, but here's what we are. Here's how the combined company. Here are the things that we bring to the table that you don't have. You don't have a go-to-market function. It's pretty weak. Let's assume that we have a much stronger go-to-market function. Yes, we don't have a product. You have the product, so let's kind of marry the two together, and we can sell the shit out of it. And then these are other kind of components that we bring to the table in terms of size and kind of like SOC 2 compliance, and there's a bunch of other randomized stuff, realistically, right? So going back to your question, how do we, one of the key things was like, I kind of like leaned into it. And the second thing is, obviously she saw the benefit in terms of her long-term value. She was, and we structured the deal such that, again, we are not a private equity company. We don't want to fuck people over their earnouts. Honestly, I think I've never ever kind of not paid an earnout. But if you ask the same question to a PE company, you can get that ratio.
I've
It's
I've done
not.
it. I've done it many times, and
There
you
you go.
rarely see the earnout if you're in a and
E-
being bought by a PE company.
Exactly. So, and that's the other reason why people want to kind of like work with me also. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure she could have probably sold it for even a slightly better price to a PE guy. But she wanted to be part of, frankly, a regular normal company, right? Not be bought and sold 15
How do
times.
you how do you get her? So you're negotiating. You're saying, listen, Valerie, I'm happy to pay a 2x multiple here with a path to 3x over time. The upfront cash is going to be about 800K, which was 1x of her ARR, about 1x of her ARR at the time. But in order for her to see value in the extra upside, the 2x and then getting to 3x, I assume you're giving her some sort of options or warrants. You've got to defend your valuation or the value of Question Pro to her so she sees value in those options. How do you go through that?
I mean, the good news for me is like there's like enough public conversations that have happened on my in my business. I mean, look, there's Qualtrics, there's Medallia, there's SurveyMonkey, there's a whole bunch of really large players, realistically, right? So they have some sort of a benchmark, right? Right. Agreed that we are not publicly valued in any particular way, shape, or form, but we are big enough right now. We are doing 30 million bucks in revenue, so it's like it's not like
30 million
we're
is what
not.
you finished last year with, or
Yeah,
that's your
last
current
year. Yep.
runway?
Yeah,
Oh,
last year.
wow.
So we finished 2022 with 30 million bucks. So it's not like we're a small kind
And
of
what do you
like
think you'll
entity.
finish this year with?
Well, the target is 40, so let's
Or
see.
okay. And that's going to be organic, or does that include some M&A in there?
No, organic. Yeah. I mean, the M&As
Okay.
are going to be small here, like not like 5 million M&A. Maybe we do one or two deals of like maybe $1 million here and there, but not necessarily like 90%. My expectation is at least 80% of that is going to be organic, maybe 20%, M&A, but yeah, maybe 80-20 is kind of the benchmark that I would put.
So how did you defend that? Like you're buying. When did you close the deal with her, Sweet CX?
Last year, late last year,
Okay.
October of last year. It took a
Okay.
long time. I'll be honest, it took a long time because she had to get super comfortable with me over a period of time. It was probably the longest kind of
How
time
long
I've
since
spent.
initial since first conversation to close?
Almost 6 to 8 months, dude. Right? And usually
Wow.
I've never spent this much time. Most of my, at least personally, but I mean, it was obviously like every deal. It almost fell apart till obviously we kind of pulled through, and both of us kind of pulled through towards the end because
Why is it
everybody gets
worth
a
your
bunch of
why is
it.
it worth your time? I mean, you're rewriting the whole code base. She only has 1 million in revenue and 30 paying customers. It takes 6 months of your time. Why is it worth it?
Because she's got an expertise in that particular market that we just don't have. Straight up, I mean, I'll tell you, like she can sell journey mapping better than anybody I've ever seen in my entire life, right? So yes, it's a pretty small number, but it's an important kind of element in the ecosystem, right? So if you don't have journey mapping, if you think about CX ecosystem, large companies start the conversation off with journey mapping. They don't start off with saying, hey, let's do an NPS program together. They start off with, let's understand the journey of the customer, then find the touch points, and then find the kind of different elements that we need to measure. So from my perspective, that was an important element in that customer buying journey, right? So if we can get that earlier, we can get the latter part. So that was a
That makes
thesis, and
sense.
that's why I spent. If it was just another survey company with like doing the same thing, then obviously it's not. It's just revenue acquisition, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like
But so
a
right
different kind
around
of a deal.
close date, though, if this was late last year, you must have been doing something around like 27, 28 million run rate. What did
Yep.
you value? Yeah, based off public comments, like what do you value the business at as of close date, like October last year?
So we kind of have an internal kind of like benchmark of a 5x, simply put,
Okay.
right? It's not 10, it's not 3 either, realistically. That's the way we kind of like think about ourselves.
So that'd be about
And so
140 million valuation end of last year is what you
100 and
think you're worth.
yeah, 100, a little south of that, like 120 would probably what I would put it at and say like, look, 20, 24-ish, 25-ish, in that range in terms of, revenue to
So then let
ARR
me
and
then let me
things
ask
like
you a question because Thoma Bravo got very aggressive in this space in October as well. They spent 800 million previously on a majority stake in UserZoom. They spent another
Yep.
1.3 billion buying
Yep.
Alfonso's company, which he's been on the show many times for 1.3 billion. Their revenue is not that much higher than Alfonso's at like 75 in ARR, right? So you're call what is that like a third of his? Did Thoma
Yep.
Bravo ask you? Did they put a deal in front of you?
No, no. I think we are kind of below the radar, I would argue. So we're still kind of under the radar. We've not raised money, so kind of like so nobody's shopping us around at any aggressive kind of way. My goal is to get. I think if I can get to 70, I mean, I think there is a difference between a 30 and 70. Honestly, at 70, people look at you and say like, look, we can get you to 200 or 300. Even at 30,
Yeah,
getting you to
they paid
200 is still
1.3 billion for 80 million of ARR at user testing. That's a 16x multiple compared to what you value yourself at, which you just told us is like a 5x. You're saying the reason there's a delta there is because you just need more scale to get a higher multiple.
correct. That's my analysis, realistically, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a, just like there's a difference between like, a $10 million company and a $30 million company, there's a difference between a 30 and a $70 million business, straight
Yeah.
up, really, right? So I think the kind of like the trigger is like in the 60-70 range where people can look at that and say like, can we get this to 200, 300, 400, really, right?
Yeah.
And that's a linear argument. I mean, it's still a pretty big lift, but it's a linear argument, right? But from 30 to 300 is still a lot of things have to happen. So
Yeah.
which is what I'm kind of working on right now. Like if I can get to 70, then I think we can get a 10 we can get in the double digit multiple range fairly
I would just
easily at
love
that
to see you
point.
go on a buying spree during a recession. You're in such a healthy position. I just feel like you could go up to like 50, 60 million this year in revenue if you can find the right companies to buy. And by the way, your buddy Nathan's got a little debt fund where if you need to fund those employees,
Yes, sir.
we
Plug
can,
that
we,
shit in, brother.
we,
Plug that
we can
shit.
make that happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome, though. Congrats, Vivek. This is a really impressive story. Look, we've only focused on economics and M&A. I want to give you a chance to promote the platform here briefly because I know a lot of our listeners will enjoy it. If people want to test the platform, where can they find you?
Actually, you know what? I have a better deal for you. I'm launching a startup program where, like, if you're a startup, it's fucking free, dude. That's it. I don't even want to. It's
What's the
just like
link?
every other. Question Pro slash startups, questionpro.com slash startups, really, right? And I'll send you a link also. But like, yeah, I mean, just apply for it, and it's $10,000 software we give you for free. It's not no bullshit. It's not like 2 months, 3 months. It's the whole year, and it's the full blown software. It's not like a shitty version of our software either. So it's like
That's
we don't
amazing.
care.
And guys, his
So
eligibility requirements for that is the startup has to be less than 36 months old. You have to raise under to have 10 million under that raised, and you have to be
yeah.
incorporated with a domain name.
Yeah, not
We
like
love
I
that.
got an idea and like give me some free software. Like, no, come on, dude, you gotta at least get a goddamn domain name. Go pay that. Go pay GoDaddy at least like $8 to get a register a goddamn
Yeah.
domain
Well,
name.
guys, Vivek, I have a list of heroes in the bootstrap SaaS space. The founders I think we need to be celebrating, putting on magazine covers, putting them on cable, promoting the hell out of them. Vivek is one of them. He's competing against so many competitors with hundreds of millions of VC funding. He continues to just grind away since 2005, keep growing, buy other bootstrappers, come speak on our stages. He's an incredible human being. So check it out, questionpro.com/startups. Check that out. Vivek, let's wrap up here with the famous five. Number one, favorite book.
I've not read a book in a long time, dude. But Ray Dalio's Principles is still fucking on the money.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
I used to follow Bezos before he became a dick, but that's all right.
Number three, what's your favorite online tool for building Question Pro besides one of your own?
So I'm a fan. I love Balsamiq. Recent, it's not an online tool, but like yeah, Figma is great, but Balsamiq is even like it gets kind of the information architecture really quickly, really fast in terms of what I want to get done, and you don't need to have you don't get caught up with the UI design elements. You get the information elements really quickly, really fast.
And Balsamiq is a desktop app. So when you're on a Delta flight and they say you have Wi-Fi and it turns out you don't have Wi-Fi, you can use
That's true.
Balsamiq, but you can't use Figma, right? That's how I use
That's right.
Balsamiq.
That's right. I know you use it. I know you use it for your path and a couple other tools,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. Number four, Vivek, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Try to get 8. Usually end up getting 6.
Okay. And situation, married, single, kids?
2 kids, 2 teenagers actually. 12, 13 and no, she's not 12, 13 and 15. So it's like in a different lifestyle now.
It's
When they
amazing.
were
And your wife
younger, it
just
was
got a
different.
new job in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, she finished off her PhD in psychology, and she went back to school late, and she got a job. And so we kind of said like, let's pack our bags and go to San Francisco for
Amazing.
a couple of years.
All right, Vivek. And how old are you?
I'm 47, 46.
46 years
Yeah.
young. Last question. Something you wish you knew when you were 20.
Oh, I had hustled harder when I was in 20. That's it. Like, I mean, I think I started hustling when I was 24, 25. I wish, like, I had started my company when I was right out of college. And it's been the best thing I've ever done in my life. I don't think I can ever work for anybody. So,
Guys, questionpro.com finished 2022 at a 30 million run rate, up from 20 million back in 2019. He's bought 5 companies and done this all organically in Bootstrap since launching in 2005. It's a tool that helps you learn from your employees, learn from your customers, all through smart surveys and engagement tools. Check it out at questionpro.com. Vivek, thanks for taking us to the top.
all right. Cheers, man. See ya.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers. They try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.